I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's Planning Committee meeting. Just so everyone is aware, this meeting will also be broadcast on the internet, and the recording of the meeting will be published on the Council's website. The committee acknowledges the Wadawurrung people as traditional owners of the land, waterways and skies. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. We acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of our Greater Geelong community today. I'll just introduce the panel. Myself, I'm the Chair, Councillor Andrew Katos. We have Councillor Stretch Contel, Councillor Emma Sinclair, Councillor Anthony Aitken, Councillor Ron Nelson and Councillor Melissa Cadwell, who are on the panel this evening. And also I'd like to introduce the officers. We have Lee Page, John Rush, Joanne Van Slageren here, Jacqueline Douglas. Where is Jacqueline? She just went out. That's good timing. Danielle Pangrazio, and also Tessa English. We have apologies this evening from Councillor Burson, from Councillors Burson, Story, Sullivan, Wilkinson, and also Councillor Eddie Contel. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Do any of the committee members have a conflict of interest? Or officers, for that matter? No? Thank you. Confirmation of minutes. That the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 24th of July be confirmed. May I please have a mover and seconder to confirm the minutes of the Council meeting held on the 24th of July? Councillor Nelson, and seconded by Councillor Sinclair. All those in favour? That is carried. Okay. Now, the procedure for this evening's meeting, ladies and gentlemen, the officer will present a summary of the written report to the committee. The panel may ask questions of the officer. The objectors and also the submitter will then detail their concerns to the committee. The objectors have a time limit of 3 minutes, and I believe it's 5 minutes for the 5 to 10 minutes for the proponent, the submitter. The panel may ask questions of the objectors and also the submitter. The applicant will detail their response to any objector or submitter concerns to the committee. And of course the panel may ask questions of the applicant. The panel will then further discuss the application and make a decision. Just so everyone is aware, the decision of this committee is the final decision of council acting under delegated authority. If anyone is aggrieved with the decision of this committee, they may appeal to VCAT in Melbourne. Our staff can assist with this process during office hours. Now, I'd like to call on our Planning Officer, Lee Page, to please read a summary of the report and recommendation. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the application proposes the use and development for a service station and car wash, creation of access to a road in a Transport Zone 2, and the display of signage. The land subject of this application, formally identified as 44 to 46 Cox Road and 42 Cox Road, is situated at the southeast corner of Cox Road and Nevada Avenue in Corio. The land has a total area of 2,328 square metres with a frontage width of 51 metres to the Cox Road and a side frontage being the depth of approximately 45 metres to Nevada Avenue. The locality generally features residential uses and development with single dwellings on lots more typical in the area, noting that there are commercial type uses within this area. The subject land is zoned General Residential Zone Schedule 4, is adjacent to a Transport Zone 2 being Cox Road, and is significantly covered by a special building overlay. The service station is proposed to be sited centrally on the subject land with vehicle access to the site available from Cox Road and Nevada Avenue. It is proposed to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and would incorporate an ancillary convenience shop to the western side and 3 fuel pumps, being 6 fuel stations, centrally on the land. The service station building would be set back approximately 5.5 metres from the west boundary and set back approximately in line with the adjoining dwelling to the east facing Cox Road, approximately 7.7 metres. The building would be single storey with a flat roof design. The pump area would be situated beneath a flat roof canopy with a maximum height of 6.6 metres, set back approximately 5.5 metres from the Cox Road boundary. 2 vacuum bays and 3 EV charging stations are located towards the east boundary. The proposed car wash would be sited to the northern area of the application site. The car wash building would comprise an automatic car wash and plant room. The hours of operation for the car wash proposed to be 7 a.m. to 10 p.m, 7 days a week. The application was advertised and a total of 40 objections have been received. The objections received generally relate to traffic, the character of the area, amenity impacts, including noise and odour, safety, flooding, planning policies and devaluation. A planning information meeting was held between the applicant, council officers and objectors. The meeting discussed the issues raised to see if any resolutions were possible. The application was referred to Council's Civil Infrastructure Department as well as the Department of Transport and Planning for consideration of access and traffic. Both of these areas did not object to the planning permit being issued. The application has been reviewed by both the Council's environmental health officers and the EPA in regard to environmental impacts, with no objection for either of these areas. An environmental noise assessment was submitted as part of the application to support the proposed use and development. This report was reviewed by Council's Environmental Health Department, who were supportive subject to conditions. In consideration against the zoning of the site, the use of the land for a service station is an acceptable use in this zone where it either adjoins a commercial zone or industrial zone, or adjoins or has access to a road in a Transport Zone 2 or Transport Zone 3. In this instance, it abuts a Transport Zone 2, being Cox Road. In relation to particular provisions, signs, car parking and the land adjacent to a principal road network have all been considered and accepted. The planning scheme does not specify a car parking requirement for a service station use or a car wash use. Therefore, car parking must be provided to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. The Department of Transport and Planning are the determining referral authority relating to access from the principal road network, being the Transport Zone 2. The advertised signage provided is designed and located to provide appropriate identification to the site in the context of the area. Overall, the proposal is considered to satisfactorily respond to the relevant planning policies, the purpose of the zone and other relevant provisions. The proposal is not considered to create any unreasonable impacts on the amenity of the area, and the recommendation is to support subject to conditions.
Thank you, Lee. Now, do any of the councillors have any questions of Lee? Councillor Aiken.
Just to clarify, in the report it says there was 40 objectors, but the list you gave us had 43. Is one of them wrong, or the summary you provided? I mean, just for historic reasons, because you've said 40 in the material. There was 43 objectors.
Picking that up, councillor. Look, I can double check that, but what we did have was 3 objectors who made further objections. So therefore, it's like a double objection.
I'm just going
from the
by what
same
was
person.
presented to us. That was all. Yeah. I did ask the question about. It says it's vacant, but there's actually 2 parcels of land. One land is vacant, there's nothing on it, and another actually has an existing residential property on it, and that property has just recently had demolition signs put up on it, but it's not. The land's not vacant. It has got the residential property there? Because I presume it's been purchased, that residential property has been purchased to consolidate.
Yeah, good question. And that's probably something that might be worthwhile asking the applicant after their submission. But from my understanding, that there is the vacant parcel, which is the larger parcel, and then the smaller parcel, which is which does contain the existing dwelling, but the dwelling itself is currently vacant.
And I just asked, this is a residential zoning, so did we consider having landscape buffers between what was proposed and the neighbouring properties, apart from just an acoustic fence?
I suppose the big issue, if you have sort of the acoustic fence set off the boundary with landscaping, then it becomes a maintenance issue with maintaining that landscaping between the acoustically treated wall and the boundary fence. And that's where you have rubbish, and it just becomes an issue to maintain that area if you actually provide that strip in between the boundary fence and the acoustically treated fence.
I just asked about the fencing as well too. Like, I went and had a look. The existing fences are about 1.6 metres high. The acoustic fence is now going to go up to 2.1 metres. So do we do shadowing, or you look at what impact the higher fences make on the neighbouring properties?
Yep. So to the northern boundary, given when we would assess applications against clause 55 for overshadowing, given the northern boundary is to the north, that's the overshadowing is not considered. The sun will won't create any overshadowing to the property to the north. To the east, from memory, it is a driveway to that side, so there was no overshadowing sort of on that property to the east.
Sorry, another question, if that's okay.
You can, sorry.
The proposal is to exit into Nevada Avenue, so the cars are actually entering into Nevada Avenue. Do we actually test it, like what lighting impact makes, because they're all residential properties that the lights will be shining onto in Nevada Avenue, so have we asked the applicant or ourselves actually to do any testing what impact all of those lights will actually make into those properties that the lights? So when you're driving in out of it into Nevada Avenue, your lights will actually be shining directly into the properties that are on Nevada Avenue. So does the report provide any response to that?
Yeah, look, another good question. I guess sort of when the short answer is no. When lights are on cars, it's whether you're on a corner or in a street, you're going to have some cars that drive past with their headlights that will essentially shine into your property. In this instance, at stages where the lights are on in cars, it would be very periodically that those cars would actually be moving through that site. So that might be something that is a good question to ask the applicant as well.
Councillor Aitken, any other councillors have questions? No? Okay, thank you. Now I'll call on, get my list again. Oh, here we go. I'll now call on the objectors to come up and speak. And just a reminder, it's a 3-minute time limit. May I please have Anita Robinson please come forward. Thank you, Anita.
I've got one for you.
All right, Anita.
Ready? Yep.
Yes, please commence.
So I wanted to zoom out on a map and give everyone an idea of the area. So rather than just zooming in, I wanted to zoom out and look at Cox Road as a driver, as a resident. So firstly, number one is the planned service station, where the location is. And I've even stuck in the visual of the service station there to show what it would look like. And then I wanted to go along the Cox Road as 2, 3, 4 and 5 are actually U-turns. So we have to use, because it's two double lanes, we've got a medium strip in the middle. We're actually having to U-turn as a resident to get to the other side. So we've got 2 single directions. And then the number 4 is actually, number 3 was meant to be that single one, was actually added for the new pool that they put in. So, yeah, we've got a spare there. The third one, number 4, which is where the main one is, where Nevada comes in to Cox's Road. So, just to make you look, number 12 is Oregon Avenue. This is where I live. I come out of Oregon Avenue and I need to go to Thompson Road. I have to do a U-turn at number 4. And so there's double 2 U-turns coming in there, and then you've got a crossover from Nevada to turn in. So I've sat sometimes at that U-turn and someone has come across and sat in the middle of that intersection to go to Thompson Road. So there's 2 of us sitting there, and then you can even have 3 doing another U-turn on the other side. So it's a big intersection there that, yeah, there's scary. And then just to number 6 is a traffic light where pedestrians cross. So there's a lot happening there. So number 7 and number 8, where the service station is planned, is their U-turn entrances and exits. So we've got 6 U-turns going on around here. It out there. It's so very scary traffic going there. And number 13 and number 14, I walk the dog along Cox's Road. I go to the Oval behind McDonald's and KFC, and so I'm walking along Cox's Road, nearly getting run over as cars are coming into different roads. Is that me? Is that fitting? Oh, sorry.
Finish up.
Yeah, and so, number 13 and 14, there's been incidents that I know of as I've been walking. There's been accidents. And then number 14, a car drove into the house. You can actually see the house leaning. So I'm worried about cars driving into things, the petrol station, incidents. And then all the yellow is all the centres and community. So, I mean, safety for petrol stations in a residential zone, there's all these centres and facilities that people come to in that area that a petrol station, if something happens, could impact. That's me.
Thank you, Anita. I'd like to call Julia Berta, please.
I'm Julia Berta from number 5 Nevada Avenue, Corail. I did the planning application in writing, 3rd of October 2024. I'm objecting it again to build petrol station and car wash on the corner of Cox Road and Nevada Avenue, Corio. As far as we know, this is a residential area. People live in the residential houses. No industrial building around us. The permanent petrol smell from cars, trucks, when they fill the petrol, constant noise would come and go from the petrol station and car wash and would exit to Nevada Avenue, which I'm very close to that, which is a very narrow street, only 6 meters wide. The vehicles would come too close to our footpaths and our driveways. All of these would affect our health and well-being very badly. To breathe in the polluted air for 24/7, rest of our life, that is a guaranteed ticket for our sickness. I'm asking the applicant, who represents the company, do you want to live in your home and breathe in polluted air rest of your life? And please give me an answer. And one more. At the Nevada Avenue and the Cox Road intersection is a school crossing. Lots of children and adults also walking on the Nevada Avenue and cross Cox Road. Children walking to school and home on the same way. The people's, especially the children's life, is in great danger. That's my objection is very strong. Health issue and children's life in danger is even more. Then my objection is stand still and will not change ever. And other thing is, about 2 kilometers in radius, we have 7 petrol stations already. We not need more, and not especially in the next to the residential houses. Someone give me answer, which I was asking.
You're at number 5 Nevada Avenue, so you're the third house from the corner of Cox's Road, aren't you? So you're one of the houses that will have light shining in you when they're coming out of the petrol station, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just a second, please.
Can I just ask a follow-up question in that case about the, just of the officers actually. Did I understand that if the application goes ahead that the height of the building is 6 metres, and I would assume therefore that the lighting will be at the 6 metre mark flowing, shining down?
You're referring to the height of the service station building. Service station is
can come back to me if that's easier, because I don't want to hold things up. We just move on and I'll get an answer to that question at some stage. Yeah.
That's fine, Councillor Cabell. Anita, thank you very much for your presentation.
Yes, Julia?
Oh, Julia. Oh, my problem. Anita was the first speaker.
And,
My apologies, Julia.
It's okay, no problem. I did ask the applicant who represents the company, do you want to live in your home and breathe in polluted air?
Julia, just so you're aware, it's not a sort of debate here.
I would like to get an answer.
That's right, but
I
yes.
have a right for that.
I understand your question, but perhaps one of the councillors can ask the applicant that when they have the opportunity to speak, okay? Thank you, Julia. I'd like to call Caitlin Davis, please.
Kids
All right,
today.
Caitlin, please.
Just quickly, some of my concerns that I do have is I live at 4 Nevada Avenue, so directly next door, and my two kids' bedrooms and my bedroom faces directly on that vacant lot, and I do have concerns about all the blocking of the light, all the safety issues, that sort of thing, how it brings a lot more foot traffic mainly as well, given that it is 24 hours. It does concern me with our bedrooms being so close. One of my children does have ADHD and autism as well, so he does have issues already with sleeping and lights and noises and all that sort of stuff. So those are my main concerns, is regarding my children, their safety and their development. And I have also heard in some studies, I can't name the study though, sorry, I've forgotten, that service stations can have a 5% increase of childhood leukaemia if living very close, as we will be, given that we will be next door. So, sorry. So those are my main really concerns. Traffic is already, quite up in that area as is, and I know that it will increase quite a lot, and being next door, it will be hard for me to sort of pull out of the driveway a lot quicker to get to school on time and that sort of thing. So yeah, those are really my main concerns that I have with those at this moment.
Any councillors have any questions? No? Thank you, Caitlin. Okay. I'd like to call Chris Laffey on behalf of Liam Laffey.
Firstly, it's important to note it is a residential zone we're talking about, and the function of a residential zone is to facilitate residential development and living spaces. You need to look at the purposes of the residential zone, the general residential zone. There are 4 of them. The first one is to implement municipal planning strategy and the planning policy framework. The second, to encourage development that is responsive to the neighbourhood character of the area. The third, to encourage a diversity of housing types and housing growth, particularly in locations offering good access to services and transport. And the final one is to allow educational, recreational, religious, community and a limited range of other non-residential uses to serve local community needs in appropriate locations. There can be no doubt that this proposal will significantly alter the character of this neighbourhood. There are a number of non-residential uses currently on Cox Road, but they are predominantly of a medical health facility type, or if you look on the other side of the road, of course, You've got the council library and swimming pool and the facilities there. We'd argue that the non-residential uses are primarily allowed to service the local community. Now, there is a aspect of this proposal which will be used by the local community, but it also services a much wider area, unlike, say, the health centres, which do serve the immediate local community. And we would also say that the surrounding residential area, the Corio community, is already well serviced by similar facilities, which was outlined in Liam's original objection. The detailed the number of similar facilities, and there's no evident need or lack of services of this type in the area. On a bit of paper. Right, where are we? In effect, just because something can be allowed or approved doesn't mean it necessarily has to. In this case, I would say that the best use of this land, the best use for the local community, would be as residential. And indeed, the site is well located for that, close to the community facilities I've already outlined, schools and so forth, and that would be of much more benefit to what the residents hope is an improving residential area rather than a use of this type, which will, as I've said, totally change the neighbourhood character of the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Council, any councillors have questions for Chris? No? Thank you. Now I'd like to call Tim Beasley to speak on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee this evening. My name's Tim Beasley and I'm the Senior Planner with Peregrine Corporation. I'm here on behalf of the applicant to address the specific planning concerns raised by the representatives this evening. Joining me, I have Christophe Dallaire from Marshall Day Acoustics and Marcus Korn from Traffics Group, who are also available to provide further details on noise and traffic-related concerns. So I think perhaps if there are any questions of a technical nature on those two items, I might ask them to come up after I've provided a bit of a summary. Lee's provided a decent summary of what's proposed already, so I won't cover off too much on that, but I might just add some further context on the drive-through. Drive-through is proposed to be for convenience items only. There won't be any food preparation on site at all. It's all pies, pasties, coffee, that sort of stuff. And primarily we find that this drive-through is used for coffee, coffee runs in the morning. So we would say that the proposed development furthers the purposes of the general residential zone by, and also the relevant outcomes of the planning policy framework by providing a facility that serves, a small-scale facility that serves the day-to-day needs of the local community in a convenient location that is highly accessible to both residents and visitors to the area. The applicants also reviewed the staff recommendation outlined within the agenda report and is willing to accept and to comply with all the proposed permit conditions. Additionally, it's noted that the head transport for Victoria and council's internal departments have also supported the referral advice. I might just make a couple of comments on some of the conditions if I can. I just note that the applicant has agreed to limit the operation of the auto wash, which was originally proposed to operate 24 hours a day, back down. There's a condition that deals with that. I can't recall the exact condition, but it limits the operation of the auto wash to, I think it's the hours of 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. during the week, and then on weekends and on public holidays there's a further restriction back to, I think, 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. Now, we'd point out that the acoustic report does support 24 hours, and it has specific noise attenuating. It's constructed of specific noise attenuating materials and has automatic doors that are shut whenever the cycle's running. But notwithstanding that, given there's the interface to the dwelling to the north, we've accepted that condition. The other condition relates to the pylon sign, which I think is initially proposed to be 9 metres in height. There's a condition that would restrict the height to 7 metres, which we've also accepted. I'll just run through some of the comments that the representatives have raised tonight, with specific reference to the traffic concerns. The site layout, parking and internal vehicle circulation has been designed following extensive consultation with not only council's traffic engineers, but our traffic consultant and with Transport for Victoria. And it's resulted in a layout that we believe is as safe and efficient for vehicle circulation and for managing pedestrian movements as can be achieved. And that's why we have the supporting referral advice from both council and the head Transport for Victoria. The site itself has actually undergone a number of design reviews that I think initially the control building and the canopy were actually in reversed order, and the crossover was much closer to the pedestrian crossover. The final design we have now, and the design that was ultimately supported by Vic Roads, is a design that moves that crossover as far as possible from the pedestrian crossing. So we think it's a good design outcome, and that's why both council and the head of Transport for Victoria support that design. Just some comments on the nature of vehicles and their movements and the use of this site. This site is a fundamentally convenience-based land use. So I think the first representative talked about vehicles doing U-turns in order to access the site. We find, and what the traffic evidence bears out, is that fundamentally this is a site that accommodates passing trade. So it's people that are already on the road network travelling in the direction of this service station and making the decision to turn in. So it's not people that are it's not generating specific trips. It's people that are driving past that are already on the road network, and they're making a decision to turn in. So we don't tend to see, so it tends to be predominantly vehicles travelling in an eastbound direction, accessing the site. So there's not, that you don't see with this type of land use, vehicles either departing from their existing journey to go somewhere else, in this case the service station. It's people that are travelling in that direction already, and more importantly, already on the road network. So these types of land uses don't tend to generate a high degree of additional trips to the site. So I think we've got some statistics on that. Well, we do, certainly. Marcus can probably provide some further comments on what those numbers are specifically. Just on vehicles exiting the site onto Nevada Avenue, we do have an indication of what the peak period, what number of turns in and out of the site you'll see on Nevada Avenue. That peak period tends to be between 5 and 6 p.m. roughly, and the numbers suggest that there'd be 18 movements in and out of the site across that hour. That is the absolute peak, and what we find is that outside of those hours, that those number of vehicles do drop away significantly. In the let's call them the more sensitive periods, say between 10 p.m. and 6 or 7 a.m., the numbers are significantly reduced. Now, this site is the petrol station component is operating 24 hours. That's the contemporary expectation for service stations these days. It is open 24 hours, but during those periods, you just don't see significant usage of the site. I might just touch quickly on some of the environmental concerns, because that's another one of the conditions that we suggested out of the community information session a few months ago. I might just point out that the applicant is owns and operates service stations all over the country. They've developed them, they've built them over many years. They are a good operator and a good neighbour, I suppose. So the applicant's got a very long and proud history of working with the EPA to ensure that its fuel sites satisfy all the requirements of the Environmental Protection Act and the relevant Australian standards with respect to storage of and handling of fuel. What we've suggested out of meeting with the representatives a few months ago is we've actually suggested a condition to better manage now I should just point out that this particular site utilises the latest environmental safeguards with respect to the handling of fuel and the sale of fuel. But additionally, we've recommended, and this is a condition that's now borne out in the recommendation before you, is that the site include both stage 1 and stage 2 vapour recovery systems. And what that is that stage 1 is effectively, do you want me to just explain what the two are, or is it enough to say that I'm just trying to paint a picture, we're trying to do as much as we can possibly. I can explain those two if you'd like me to. Yeah. I just want to make sure there's a few other points I wanted to make, but I think it's worthwhile because stage 1 is a system that is fairly standard, and you see them at most service stations across the country. That is where, when you have a tanker arriving at the site to refuel the underground fuel tanks, what happens is when the tank is largely empty, there's fuel vapour that sits in the tanks. As fuel is pumped from the tanker into the underground fuel tanks, previously what you had is you had these vent stacks that were, 5 metres in the air that would just sort of pump the vapour that's in the tank up into the atmosphere. What happens now at stage 1 is that vapour is actually pumped back into the fuel tank, so it never sees the light of day. And when it is in the fuel tank, it condenses back into fuel again, and then it is provided at the next service station. That's very standard now. What isn't so standard is stage 2 vapour recovery. Now that's at the Bowser when you or I are filling our cars up. There is effectively a mini version of that at the pump that will suck the vapour out of your fuel tank and back into the pump itself. So that is not a standard approach. It's an approach that we take. It is mandated in South Australia, where this particular company is from, but it's not in Victoria. We've suggested that be included as a condition here, and it's now in the recommendation before you.
What I might do, Tim, obviously the time's sort of expired.
So I just wanted to make sure, I just want to try and address.
That's right, I thought I'd let you finish on that point about the vapour recovery, but what I might open up the floor is if any councillors have questions of you, Tim, and also of your subject matter experts. Councillor Aiken.
First question is, can you explain on the map how the semi-trailers delivering the petrol are So are they driving from Cox's Road and then trying to exit out of Nevada Avenue?
They are entering in, so there are swept paths that are attached to the traffic report that show all these, but the tanker it's a 16.4 metre tanker. It's proposed to enter in via Cox Road. It then comes up through the side, it props next to the fuel point, which is just to the north of the control building, and it is proposed to exit out onto Nevada Avenue. You'll see that there's a flaring of the crossover there, which allows the vehicle and vehicles generally, to prop and to turn back out onto Nevada Avenue. To the south, and then back out onto Cox Road. So we don't expect to see any vehicles, or very few vehicles, doing a right-hand turn onto Nevada. The vast majority will turn left there.
Normal with your experience that a small residential street like Nevada Avenue would actually have large semi-trailer trucks in it? Because it's not my...
This particular vehicle is not, so it is a small vehicle for a service station refuelling tanker, and I would suggest that it is reasonably common for a tanker of this size to exit out onto the side street and back out onto the main road.
Operational guidelines that restrict when the trucks are actually...
Yes, do.
Sorry, Councillor Aiken. Sorry. Councillor Cadwell's just left momentarily, so we might have to just pause till she returns. Okay, Councillor Aiken, that's all right. You're keen to ask questions, nothing wrong with that.
Point up when they return.
Councillor Aiken, can you please resume?
There would be restrictions on when the trucks are delivering and entering into Nevada Avenue, but they're still going to be entering into Nevada Avenue. So are they in part of the planning permit process? Because if we don't put it in as a clause, there is no planning control over when trucks can actually enter into Nevada Avenue then.
Yes, so there are restrictions on when service vehicles and particularly the fuel tanker can access the site. So that is a recommendation that's outlined in the Marshall Day acoustic report, and deliveries to the site are restricted between the hours of 7 and 10 p.m. But what we say generally is that those tankers will avoid the peak period. So it would be outside of, it'll either be before 5 or after 5 at some stage to avoid the peak period. And that, I should just say that is a very standard condition and recommendation for these types of sites that you would see in any acoustic report and in any permit recommendation or suite of conditions.
Broken, please continue.
Is the City of Geelong built the Norlane Arc in the modify the traffic management. So what we did was we said you can only turn left into Cox's Road, and we built another U-turn which has been referred to strip to get onto the other side, but use that safety area. What my question is, two questions. One is, why was your traffic concerns different to what the council had in terms of the Norlane Arc when we did our traffic management planning? And the second one was, when did you do your traffic management plan? Because we only built that new second medium strip entry point in the last like 15 months. It was opened just shortly before the Norlane Arc opened, so we actually changed the traffic movements because of that. So what was the timing of your traffic management plan that you did?
I might just, can we park that, and could I just get my traffic engineer to address that particular point? I think that would be worthwhile. I think I'd just reiterate the point that this site is designed specifically to capture that eastbound movement. So we're not anticipating that a land use of this type, given its convenience-based nature, would attract traffic from the other parts of the catchment. But I will, just on terms of talking about the plan itself, I might just ask Marcus to address that.
You did say.
Want to do that now, or do you want to wait?
Time to research it, and then I can ask some other questions, but if you wish to answer...
Or have you got the answer ready? You need that. If you've got the answer ready, please come forward, Marcus. And then we've got Councillor Sinclair as a question as well.
Do I just press the button or? Sorry.
The red light.
So just in terms of when we undertook our initial assessment, our first revision of our report was prepared in February of 2024. So I think that timeline would have been following the road upgrades, that you referred to. In terms of factoring that into the assessments that we've undertaken, as Tim mentioned, our expectation is that most of the traffic will be from passing trade and will be patrons who are looking to access the most convenient service station they can. For that reason, I think there's a pretty low likelihood there'd be any significant level of U-turning traffic along Cox Road. If you were accessing the site, driving up, U-turning to head back towards the west, I think that's an unlikely movement that would have. It's unlikely to be a significant increase in that movement that would, I guess, cause an issue with how those U-turn lanes are being utilised.
Peak period times, it's consistent. And that it sounds like it's going to be quite complex and challenging, and it would be different if Nevada Avenue and Cox's Road was traffic lighted, like an example that was given to us there. Not assessed, you just looked at it and said
if it would, I actually only got this on my laptop. I'm not sure if it would be helpful for you. I've got a swept path diagram, which is a kind of computer-generated image of the actual semi-truck movement, if that's of assistance for you to see how that would actually work. Yeah.
I'll come over and look.
wouldn't imagine that Nevada Avenue carries enough traffic that they wouldn't be able to find a 5-10 second gap in traffic where there's no one coming in either direction.
Now, Councillor Sinclair, have a question. Is it Jacob or more?
It's a road question,
Okay.
so we'll see where it ends up.
Yes.
I just want to clarify how you came to the conclusion that it would be mostly eastbound traffic. So looking at that position, I would imagine you'd get quite a significant amount of people wanting to refuel before they hit the highway to drive to Melbourne. So that would be westbound. So yeah, just wanting the logic that went through that decision, or that assumption.
Yeah, so it really comes back to, I guess, the convenience factor. So anyone heading westbound to head to the highway to Melbourne, there's the freeway service stations there that you obviously, it's just left in, left out. It's pretty quick to get through them, and not that people can't do this, but they could potentially undertake a U-turn here at Nevada Avenue, enter via the Cox Road crossover, or turn right into Nevada Avenue. But that's just, I guess, slightly less convenient outcome than if they were to just head to the freeway service station. So that's, I guess, the basis of where we expect the majority of traffic to come from, is just considering what we think is likely the most convenient option for drivers, and base what we expect them to do on that factor.
Please, Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you. Is there behavioural data that backs that up? And I guess, the key driver of where people select to purchase fuel is cost at the moment, I think, especially with cost of living. So is there likely to be a cost differential between the big BPs and a smaller, but like a smaller local provider?
I'd have to defer probably back to Tim on questions of cost. I'm not aware of any, I guess, specific studies or data that relates to potential impact of cost on driver choice and impact on convenience, though.
Can probably pick up on that point. So I suppose there are a number of different fuel operators nationally. OTR is probably a relatively less familiar one here in Victoria. There are a number of OTRs that are beginning to open up, but OTR, its business model is not one that is predicated on discount fuel sales. So there are operators that use certain periods during the week to heavily discount fuel price, and at those particular sites you do see significant spikes in the level of customers using the site at that time. OTR's business model is not to discount fuel in that same way. It relies on, I suppose, its convenience retail brand, and then also its ancillary services like the car wash and these sorts of things to generate custom. So it doesn't have the significant spikes at certain times of the day that you would see at other service stations that do operate that particular business model. We do have surveys that we've used to sort of identify the operators that do use that. I don't have them to hand, but they are available. I might just make another point just on Nevada Avenue and exiting out there. So the fuel tanker comes at off-peak periods, and it does that so that the road network is quieter and the site itself is quieter, so it does allow for the tanker to make that left-hand turn. The context for this particular site on a transport Zone 2 road and a residential side street, that is fairly commonplace for service stations in metropolitan Melbourne. So that particular, with the nature of the land use and having vehicles predominantly using the site that are travelling in an eastbound direction, that left-hand turn out of Nevada onto Cox Road is the safest particular traffic movement that you can possibly make as a driver. And that is a commonplace turning manoeuvre that you would see at any other service station. It is not particularly common in this particular instance where you would have a traffic light at that sort of intersection. You do see service stations at these types of localities, and that there aren't issues in terms of the way they operate.
Any further questions, councillors? Everyone's done? Thank you, Tim.
One more comment on light spill. Potentially that was referenced earlier and it probably wasn't covered off on. I think it was just a question about the height of the building. So the height of the building is between, so it's the main portion of the building is 4.2 metres high. There is, you'll see on the elevations, there's a high period position that I think gets up to about 6.5 metres. That's where that's the acoustic screening to the rooftop plant and equipment. So there is lighting on the control building, there is lighting on the fuel canopy, but they are down lights and they're fitted with batters and screens to direct the lighting within the site and away from sensitive land uses. And they use we're not using sort of the neon type light. There are a specific type of LED downlight now that is very good or very easily manipulated and retained within the site. There's also a relevant Australian standard that does control lighting and light spill, which we have consented to comply with, and there's an engineering answer to all these things, and it's one that can be policed and I suppose monitored via conditions. So if there is an issue, sometimes a light spill guard might fall off or whatever it is. That's we want to be a good neighbour. So if that does happen, well, it can be fixed fairly easily.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, that was raised earlier during Lee's presentation. So yeah, but thank you for clarifying that. Okay. Thank you. All right. So the committee has a recommendation before us that the responsible authority, having considered all matters within the Planning and Environment Act of 1987, requires it to consider decides to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for use and development of a service station and car wash, creation of access to a road in the Transport Zone 2, and display of signage in accordance with the plans, documentation submitted with the application subject to the 65 conditions that are laid out in the report for us. Councillors, do I have a mover for this motion?
I'll move the motion.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Contel.
So what I'll say is that Cox Road, it's a major road, dual carriage, both ways, east-west. That there used to be a service station not that far from this particular site, years gone back. So I don't believe there's a material change in the amenity of the area as a result of this development. I also believe it will predominantly serve local residents. I can't imagine people travelling to this location as a destination. I note that the Department of Transport and EPA, neither have objections. As far as noise is concerned, I note that the site will be surrounded by acoustic fencing, and also there's the provision in the proposed permit that there'll be a post-construction assessment after some 3 months to assess noise and then to take whatever action needed if it's found that the site is noisy. The operation of the car wash, it's restricted Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. till 10 p.m, Saturdays, Sundays and public holidays, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the other thing that I believe, or have the view, is that if this matter was to be rejected, then there's a high likelihood the VCAT would approve it based on other applications that we've been given examples of. So for those reasons, I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Content. Councillor Nelson.
Thanks, Mr Chair. Nothing further.
Any other councillors like to speak on the motion? Councillor Aiken.
I should speak against the motion and if I'll show out one alternative, Mr Chair. Look, normally I'm actually quite supportive of investment in the northern suburbs, job creation and opportunity that exist, but I actually think the residents have there's 40 residents who objected to this proposal, so it isn't just a minority, it's a large cohort. It is an existing and well-established residential area, and I actually believe that the impacts of this proposal are just too severe. Both, importantly, the traffic impacts they're going to make, and importantly, the amenity of the immediate neighbours. I mean, we've had two or three of them that actually live right next door to it that have been quite concerned about the fact that it's currently a quiet area, that it currently is a residential area and it's being turned into commercial zoning under this application if it is successful. So I am voting against the recommendation, Mr Mayor. Mr Chair, sorry.
Got a promotion there for a moment. Thank you, Councillor Aiken. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Councillor Kados, or Chair. I also am not supportive of this application, and I second the comments that Councillor Aiken has made, particularly about the number of objections, many of whom have come along tonight, to speak quite passionately about the impact they think this application is going to have on their quality of life and amenity of the local neighbourhood. Also make the point around it currently being a residential zone. We currently have an urgent need for 7,200 affordable houses, and future growth in Geelong is forecast to need 13,500 affordable houses by 2041. So rather than seeing a development like this go ahead, and as one of the objectors actually commented that I think there's 7 current petrol stations in the area, so they feel they're very well serviced. So I would encourage the applicant to consider using this site potentially as affordable housing and social housing, as I think that would be far better servicing the local community. Thank you.
Mr Cadwell, any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Sinclair, you're okay? Okay. Councillor Contel, back to you to close.
Nothing further.
Nothing further. Okay. With that, councillors, I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? That motion is defeated. Councillor Aiken, would you like to propose your alternative motion, please?
The alternative I would like to propose is that the Responsible Planning Authority, having considered all matters which the Planning Environment Act 1987 requires it to consider, decides to refuse a grant a planning permit for the use and development of a service station and car wash. And there's essentially 4 grounds for the refusal. They're associated around the significant impact of the proposal on the site location. So to paraphrase, the first ground of refusal is that the proposed land use will detrimentally impact on the amenity of the adjoining resident dwellings, and in particular through generating traffic at that site location, which is clearly unacceptable for a residential community. I mean, I wouldn't certainly as a councillor feel comfortable living in a street where I'm trying to exit my residential property and I'm blocked by a semi-trailer or a small petrol tanker that's taking up both sides of the road. I should be able to freely enter in and exit that I've been able to do on my site location. Another one is the issue about noise. I know we're being comforted with the fact that we're told there's going to be acoustic fencing, but our own officer's report does talk about how after 3 months of operation we do want the applicant to test the noise at the site, and if we find that the noise is too impacting on the residences, we will put other restrictions on the application. I personally think that we should have those restrictions now by not actually having a car wash. The anecdotal evidence of living next door to a industrial vacuum cleaner, I don't know how you can actually stop that noise going over the fence to the adjoining property owners. I don't believe that can be achieved at the site location. And then there's this issue about I think there should be a landscape buffer. If council is going to approve petrol stations and car washes, we should have a policy position that there should be a buffer zone between a residential property and that commercial activity. There's actually, the only buffer zone is a acoustic fence, which I don't think is acceptable at that site location. And overall, I don't think it is the principle of orderly planning. We had some of the objectors talk about, is it the best use of the land site? No, it's not. The reality is residential housing is better for that site location. I would encourage the applicant to actually have a look at the old Norlane High School site, which is currently vacant. That would be an ideal site for an OTR, and that's actually down the Anarchy Road end of Cox's Road. And
sorry, Councillor.
Have less impact on the residential.
Councillor, my apologies.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask for a seconder to your motion. Do we have a seconder?
I'm happy to second, thank you.
Councillor Campbell,
Retrospectively.
sorry about that. I've upset your flow there, Councillor.
And Mr. Chair, I won't speak any more than now.
We have also the meeting procedure. My apologies there. Thank you, Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you. Look,
please, if you wish to continue, please do so. It's okay.
Don't give him the floor.
Councillor
I don't know
Cadwell.
how much he likes it. I don't think I can say anything that would top the local knowledge and expertise and passion of the ward councillor, so I'm happy to just second this.
Any other councillors wish to speak on the motion? On the alternative motion? No? Okay. Back to you to close, Councillor Aitken.
Look, I'll actually make it personal. Look, I thank the applicant for having a go. I actually think it's just an inappropriate site location for it, and I encourage them to look at other site locations along Cox's Road that are more appropriate. And I do want to thank Anita and Julie, because clearly that's the first time I've been given a map in like about 9 years as a councillor and a planning period to that level of information presented to us, so thank you. And Julie, thank you very much for your pictures as well too, to show where you were as well too, so I did appreciate that, and I think all councillors did as well too, so thank you to the objectors and thank you to the applicant. Yeah.
Okay, with that, I'd like to put the alternative motion to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried. Thank you, everyone. That concludes the meeting. That now concludes all items for consideration this evening, and I now call the meeting closed at 7:14 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance this evening. And remiss of me, I forgot to introduce James Sturton earlier, one of our executive directors. So, James, good that you're here. Thank you, everyone. We get maps all the time.
10 more planning committees. We get maps all the time. Yeah.
I like that.
Not laminated, not laminated.
Not the lamination is... Well, the lamination was impressive. I like that lamination.
Yeah, that's on went to some cost.
Yeah.
Actually, let's do that, actually. Good thinking. It would be a waste to throw them out. Yeah, you're right. Perfect thinking.
Okay.
This will be a service station.
Where can we leave?